Just thought since you did so well with the last Disney movie, you might like to look at a few more. Also, I believe a change of genre is in order.
Another day dawns in my cinematic world. I stare out upon the new day that's unfurled, and I think there must be some way, must be something I can do. Can it ever be understood? Can I make them see that movies can be good? I'll show them in my next review.
Morning, Matt.
Morning, Hatter. Ready to lose?
Oh, just you wait, Reg. I can feel a big comeback coming on.
This Reg thing isn't going anywhere anytime soon, is it?
All right, boys. Big day. Season 2 finale.
Though they're both the same person, they just cannot reconcile. It's the world of the written word versus cinematic style. They'll just bicker and they'll argue. They won't back down from the fight. He says, my hats give me reason. And he says, I didn't even know that we had seasons. I'll show them that my medium has it right.
Seriously, we have seasons?
Yeah, Reg, where have you been? Every 15 episodes is a season.
This established?
Well, technically it wasn't, but it's been that way since the beginning of the year.
Fellas, we need a review. Call them the suggestions. Now, what have we got?
We've had requests for Hal's Moving Castle. Haven't read it. We could look at Battlefield Earth. Ugh, forget it. There's maybe Lord of the Rings. I kinda dread it. What about the 4 reviews we've been sitting on? Is there a reason? I'm saving them for next season.
Oh, the season thing again. Great.
I've got it! As we rack up the tally for our season finale, we should look at a magical work of art that harkens back to storytelling start. Fairy tales. Fairy tales. Brilliant! But Scotty, what do we compare them to? Why, the Disney movies, of course. It's one of their biggest moneymakers. Of course! Where did you come up with that idea? Well, we actually said that we do it in these two promos, so, you know. Oh, right. Well, let's do it. This could be my chance to pull ahead of Matt. This could be my chance to show that fuddy-duddy that movies can tell a good story just as well as books of old. I will make them see the light. You know I can hear what you're singing right. I'll show them. Let us go and start.
Hold on there, Matthew. Wait a minute, Matthew. You're not going to leave me out.
Oh God, not you.
You have to include me. You cannot exclude me. I know what this review's about.
It's my
and
review.
Besides, your subscribers love me. Well, except for one or two. I have infectious charm and wit.
You're forgetting, Cass. I write the scripts.
I'll show you. I know more about this than you. I've been studying fairy tales almost all my life.
Yeah, so have I.
And I've written these fairy tale stories.
Look, your argument is rife with problems. I've done everything you've done. I am just as good as you.
Did you take a Sleeping Beauty class?
No.
I'm trying to help you not look like an ass. I'll show them.
Alright, fine. You can be in the review. You can do the Sleeping Beauty stuff since you took the class. I'll take Cinderella. But you'll have to provide your own movie reviewing persona.
Done. It's finally my turn to take my place on stage. I'll make them learn that it's a brand new age. No more shafting of the musicals. No books and movies, get in line. For I tell you this is war. As I sing my pretentious Weber chords, I'll show you. And this review will be mine.
Done?
Yeah, I got it out of my system.
Good.
But wait, we need a third person to review Snow White.
Oh yeah, we'll just make Jeffrey do it. He's here. Hey, Jeffrey. Yeah?
You have to come with us, have to join in our review. We need a third person, so of course we thought of you.
Why are you singing? Don't question the format, Jeffrey. Just put on a cheesy grin. It has to be done with 3.
Even for you guys.
Come sing along with Cass and me. We'll show them.
Are you serious with this?
We're in.
No, we're not. What are you doing here?
Because it has to be done with 3. Oh, brother. It has to be done with him, her, and me. Come on, it's not a story by L. Frank Baum. All you need for completion is an Oxford comma. You say it has no basis in reality, and would we all agree? Well, yes, but this is no ruse we pull. Don't forget, Jeffrey, we're in a musical!
Is that really the best rhyme you could come up with?
I didn't write this. We'll show them.
Why are we in a musical? I really don't think that's Wait, what are you...
Nothing can beat the written word, and the fact that you think so is quite absurd. Your movie may have action and eye candy galore, but it will always leave you wanting so much more. Whether it's on print or on a Kindle, you just can't beat the original. Your Disney magic is doomed to fail. While I'm looking at the most ancient of tales, I'll show them. Alright everybody, reviewing places, and let's sing all of our parts together. Trust me, it's gonna be awesome. Go! Nothing can beat the written word, and
the fastest dancer, it's quite absurd.
Nobody can understand. I can't understand. Okay, the prologue makes sense. Here, this, and this. Why are you happening at the same time? This makes no sense. You are making any sense. No sense to me. This room right now. I don't understand what's going on.
We'll show them. Now let's start this.
This is Books vs. Movies review of Fairy Tales vs. Disney.
Well, Matt, how are we going to approach this?
Well,
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Disney animated movies based on fairy tales, or at least what we think of as fairy tales, which isn't the same as everybody's definition. But these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Disney animated movies based on fairy tales include Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin and Tangled. And though we'll only look at the first 3 on the list for this review, just to ensure that nothing gets missed, here's what we're going to do. The Little Mermaid has gotten its own review. Aladdin and Tangled will get one too. And Beauty and the Beast gets a review of fame. So these 4 movies aren't on the same footing as the other 3, but we'll still look at them to see how Disney movies screw with fairy tales and how the stories change. Because though how Disney movies screw with fairy tales can sometimes seem strange, there's a remarkably consistent pattern. And just in case you missed it, Hatter and I will explain it to you in the coming review. So the rounds might be a little different. Don't let it confuse you or get you miffed or anything. Just hear us sing about how Disney movies screw with fairy tales. But a question, Matt. Yes? Who are we going to get to cover all of the stories that came after the Renaissance? Hey, that's a good question, Hatter, because we want to illustrate the pattern that these movies fall into in the coming review. So who should we get? Who indeed?
yeah, I got nothing. Yeah, me neither. Well, maybe something will occur to us. Shall we continue? Indeed.
How Disney movies screw with fairy tales, and we're 10 minutes in, so maybe we should actually start.
Yeah, good idea. Let's look at the protagonists. Now, the main pattern here is that Disney will typically take the main protagonist and tear them down and humble them even more so that the audience will feel sorry for them.
Wait! That's no way to start a review.
Well, how should I start then?
You have to start with...
Once upon a time!
First of all, we have Snow White, who, in the book at least, isn't really badly off. I mean, okay, her mother has died and her stepmother's trying to kill her, but other than that, she's doing pretty good.
Tearing them
And
down!
there's Sleeping Beauty, who in the original story is cursed, but by all accounts lives a happy 15 or 16 years as, you know, royalty.
Tearing them
And
down!
Cinderella loses her mother and her father remarries a shrewish woman with 2 shrewish daughters who consider Cinderella little more than a slave. But at least she still has her father, who seems to be turning a blind eye to all this, so he's either despicable or impotent, but he's there!
Tearing them down, but Disney feels the need to make these land heroines lead their lives with drama, grief, and strife, at least until they become a wife.
Hold it, fellas, hold it. Are you just spoofing Into the Woods? I mean, great musical and all, but what does it really have to do with what we're talking about?
Well,
It's about fairy tales. Well, yeah, but it's not even the same fairy tales, and no one's gonna think that we're original, so let's...
But Scotty, our arguments fit 12/8 meter perfectly. Listen!
Snow White lost both of her parents and became a slave unfairly, forced to scrub each floor and pillar, while the evil queen plots to kill her.
Sleeping Beauty's parents show some foresight as they try to go and hide their daughter as a peasant, though her life is not unpleasant.
Then there's Cinderella, who...
Well, her life isn't really that much worse off in the movie than it is in the book. I mean, her father's dead, but that's about it. Let's try to keep it to songs that... Who might that be? Oh, good grief. It's... background singer number 4? What's up, guys? I'm here for the talk about the Disney protagonists after the Renaissance gig. The beatbox guy? Does anyone even know who that is anymore? Leave it to you guys to come up with the most obscure persona available.
In the past, Disney princesses had a tendency towards blandness. This is not entirely without reason or explanation. It was, after all, a different time. More recent Disney princesses are a little more interesting, however. Still, their motivations are the same. All they want, more than anything in the world, is more. They always want more, never satisfied. Even when the royalty, they never feel gratified. Ariel's a brat, but we should identify, because her father's really mean and won't let her get the guy. Never mind the fact that she would have to sell her soul to get him, but we've looked at that already, so I'm ready to forget it. On to Belle, who in addition to being kinda poor, is too smart for her village, so it makes sense to want more. Aladdin, who, let's face it, though he may not look the same, is the Disney princess of this film in everything but name, and he's poor and homeless too, and he dreams of a rich life, and eventually having haughty Jasmine as his wife. And that just leaves Rapunzel, who just wants to see the stars and solve the mystery of her life and who her parents are. Compared to that, an older princess just looks like a dunce. If she moons after a handsome guy she's only met just once.
Good grief, did that really just happen?
You know it. At any rate, Disney doesn't just tear down these protagonists, they also build up their virtues, making them seem not only like poor girls with their dreams trodden upon, but also like saints. As such, we feel even worse about Ariel being berated by her father, or Belle being mocked by the townspeople, or Aladdin being the misunderstood thief, or Rapunzel being locked in a tower because they're good people. This isn't something that really becomes apparent until the Renaissance, however, as the protagonists are so bland early on that there's really not much more for Disney to do.
But with regards to our 3 main protagonists, does it help or hurt? Well, in the case of Snow White, neither. I mean, I kind of got the short end of the stick here, because any way you slice it, Snow White is just not interesting. However, what I will say about the book Snow White is that she's not as much of a damsel in distress. I mean, okay, she dies 3 times instead of just once like in the movie, but at least she doesn't fall into a dead faint in the woods just because of all things, logs, trees, and... a shrubbery! And if nothing else, at least in the book, we don't have to hear her sing.
The movie Cinderella, however, is a lot better. I know she's usually lumped in with Snow White and Aurora as one of the bland, submissive princesses, but I kind of feel a need to defend her here because, in reality, she's not that bad. Really. Not that bad. No, Reg, she's not that bad. Okay, I know I don't have a lot of room to talk here since Charles Perrault's idea of the ideal woman was someone who always kept her mouth shut and did what she was told, but seriously? Now, let's look at the facts.
She never leaves the house. Her best friend is an annoying mouse, her stepmother's a louse, and yet she never leaves the house. It's her house! It's her house too! Why should she flee? She's loyal to her father's legacy. Besides, where would she go? It's all she knows. Well, what about the scene where she runs through the house and cries because her stepfamily left her behind to go to a ball? Oh, come on, you know better than that. She wasn't crying over that. She was crying because she was just attacked and her dress was ripped to shreds. Hell, I'd probably cry too. The dress, yes. She didn't make her dress. The mice did. How could she? Mice. With all the work she had out there, she had no time to spare on sewing. And the end, she did nothing. Just let her friends, the mice, do everything. Dude, her stepmother locked her in a tower. What else could she do? And look, when that darn cat is there, she tells the birds to get the dog. Even though she made a fuss before, she says, screw passivity, get the dog. And when she hears the prince is looking for the girl who fits the shoe, she says, I'm done. She stops working and gives her family a big you.
That's debatable. Reg, we've done 29 of these. All the points are debatable. Okay, fine. So, Snow White's a better book character, and Cinderella's a better movie character. And that leaves...
Aurora. And oh my god, is this character boring. She's even worse than Snow White.
And when you're trying to make a character who does nothing but sleep interesting, give her something more than a nice house in the woods and forbidden romance with a prince who's vaguely creepy. Does anyone else feel that they missed the boat here? Like showing what it's like to live as a peasant when you're destined for something more, or showing anything over 16 years before this girl's aboard. But it's not as if your counterpart is much better. She's barely there at all, and all she does is sleep. True. But the crime that Disney committed wasn't in not making her deep, but in giving her so much screen time and so little personality, and in not giving a portrayal conducive with reality. They would have been better off having her sleep through the whole movie. So after a close look, while tearing them down with proof to work in later years, the protagonists here are better in the book.
But for every good guy, there's a bad guy. Okay, that's not necessarily true, but in this case it is. So, here are the bad guys. As far as villains go, Disney has created some real baddies, and the three that we're looking at today are some of the worst. And I mean worst as in evil worst, not like badly done worst.
Let's first look at the original villainess, the evil queen from Snow White. She gets overlooked a lot because of the villains that would later follow, but this woman really did start the trend of Disney villainesses to come. First of all, look at the way she's drawn, in perfect contrast to Snow White. Snow White is all softness, so much in fact that sometimes you think you're looking at her through one of those soft focus filters. In contrast, the Queen is drawn with sharp, hard lines. She actually seems like she's more present than Snow White, more real, like she's representing the hard reality of the real world. As far as what she actually does that's evil, that's a little different. In both versions, the Queen is deeply jealous of Snow White's beauty, especially after her magic mirror, who always used to say that she was the fairest in the land, changes its glassy mind and decides that Snow White is. This is too much for the vain Queen, and she plots to have her killed. And the Queen in the original story is considerably more gruesome in doing so. Both queens want her heart in a box, but the Queen in the book wants to eat it. Ew. And when the Book Queen finds out that Snow White is still alive, she makes 3 attempts on her life. In addition to the iconic poisoned apple, she also tries to kill her by strangulation with ribbons and stabbing her with a poisoned comb. Yikes.
The two step families in book and movie are actually pretty comparable, although one aspect from the original story that I do like is that the name Cinderella actually comes from the kinder of the two stepsisters. The other stepsister called her Cinder Wench, and it is interesting to me that there was one stepsister who was at least a little bit nicer than the other. And to be honest, the stepsisters are really more spoiled and selfish than they are actually cruel. The cruelty mainly comes from the stepmother, and you get the feeling that the stepsisters were just kind of raised to see Cinderella as beneath them. They simply don't know any better. The stepmother, however, is a bitch no matter what story you look at. On the one hand, in the original story, the father is still alive, and you kind of have to ask the question, if the father's still alive, why is he allowing all of these horrible things to happen to his only daughter? You get the feeling that the stepmother is exerting her evil influence over him too, which in a way makes her even more diabolical. But on the other hand, the stepmother in the movie is much more proactive in keeping Cinderella from finding happiness. Though it's never stated outright, Lady Tremaine probably knows that her own daughters are nothing compared to her stepdaughter, and so she does everything that she possibly can, including locking Cinderella in a tower and lying to royalty to keep Cinderella from ever being anything other than a servant girl.
The villain in Sleeping Beauty is actually not really much of a villain at all. I mean, she's upset that she didn't get invited to the party, but really what she does isn't all that evil. She basically just warns the king and queen that their daughter is going to die. She even gives them the time and manner of her death, and then she disappears from the story and we never see her again. So really, the true villain in this story is sheer stupidity. I mean, think about it. They knew she was going to die on her birthday. They knew how the death was going to happen. And what did they do? Say, let's burn all the spindles in the kingdom, and, well, that's that. And then, on the day in question, the parents were away and no one was watching the princess. Parents of the year, these guys. Maleficent, on the other hand, actively seeks to kill Aurora for this slight against her. The parents are actually reasonably intelligent in having her sent away, but Maleficent seeks her out and plots to have her killed. Plus, you have to give Maleficent credit on the cruelest punishment ever attempted. She captures Prince Philip, Aurora's only savior, but she doesn't kill him as most villains would do. No, she decides she's going to keep him alive until he's an old man, and then she'll let him go be with sweet, young Aurora. Ouch. In general, Maleficent is quite possibly the most badass villain Disney ever created.
Most badass villain ever? Hardly. She might have the powers of hell on her side, pretentious director, but she is missing one crucial thing that the later Disney villains had. Poor Maleficent.
You never got a villain song to sing and have a sing-along. No, be prepared or friends on the other side set your film apart. Maybe Disney didn't like the ring. Maybe those voice actors couldn't sing. Whatever the reason, they did decide to exclude the art of the villain song. Villains in these Disney films took the lukewarm antagonists and polarized the evil like they polarized the good and the protagonist. See which wasn't evil. Jafar was a character mix. Mother Gothel was just overprotective and Gaston didn't exist. And what's the best way to establish your evil? Why sing a villain? Ursula sings of poor unfortunate souls and her philanthropy biz, while Gaston and his cronies just sing a song about how awesome he is. And Mother Gothel sings to Rapunzel about how Mother knows best, but the rest, the other four villains in this review don't get their own song. Although Jafar has an evil reprise of Prince Ali, it doesn't last too long. Aladdin Jr. doesn't but the count. Evil Queen, Maleficent, and Lady Tremaine don't ever sing a note of the songs they wrote. They never got a villain song. Something about that just seems wrong.
You don't even like singing!
Yeah, neither do you.
They raise a good point. Maleficent might not get a villain song, but she doesn't need a villain song. And who knows, maybe that's just wrong. But
But doesn't her evil speak for itself just fine? The fact is that these villains three are far more interesting than our heroes, even if they never sing. Don't whine, just give movies